Hi there, thank you for tuning into this video. Today we're going to be talking about how to do a functional patterns workout. Now, for reference, my name is Brendan. I'm a functional patterns human foundations practitioner. I am also the head coach and owner of my own company called Raw Motion Fitness in the UK, and I work with clients each day using exclusively the functional patterns methodologies. The reason I'm answering this question for a lot of people is because I feel like a lot of people are asking this question in the community, and also people ask this kind of question to me when I'm working with them. Like, how do I do a workout based on the fact that a lot of this is very different to how the industry is oriented? So I'm going to break it into a few sections here for you today. Granted, this is going to be slightly different because you've got gym goers that go to the gym because they're just trying to get fit and healthy. Then you get gym goers who go to be bodybuilders, strength and conditioning. But I'm going to try and cover all of those bases for you today. So the first part is giving you a reference of traditional personal training and what personal trainers are trained to teach in the UK. I'm then going to give you a little insight into maybe some bodybuilding elements that people would have leaned on in terms of programming, and maybe some strength and conditioning elements. And then I'm going to kind of bring it back around to why functional patterns is very different to all three of those and how you can make it work for you. So the timestamps will be on screen here. Try and be a bit more casual about this video today and just kind of riff off some notes that I've got here on the tables. When I started training people in a traditional sense in personal training, there was a very set formula that you had to adhere to. So you had to take people through dynamic stretching to start the session. You would introduce a pulse raiser to get their heart rate up so that they weren't, completely going into the exercises all cold and blind. And then we would introduce resistance training, so sets and reps of maybe 2 to 3 exercises. You'd have your weight training, and then you'd add some cardio in, and then at the end you do some abs and you'd stretch in a static context. I tended to do mostly full body with people back when I was starting out, because I realized that actually if you give people a 3-month program or something like that, it's very rare that they're going to actually focus on doing that if they're an average person attending a normal commercial gym. So that would be the formula, and you'd run through that. You could write an hour's program quite quickly. So then if we move into a bodybuilding perspective, you'd see bodybuilders for the most part working with things like 3-day splits, or they would have leg day on a particular day, they would have back day on a particular day, they would do arms, shoulders, chest, and split their body into parts so that they could be able to overload the muscle groups effectively. So you would train the muscles to absolute fatigue, so that you tear the muscle so that you can grow the muscle, right? So that was the notion behind their training methods. So from my experience with it, stretching and cool downs and stuff, didn't really factor in, and cardio didn't really factor in a huge amount for bodybuilders, maybe at the beginning of their training. But if they were going to a show or something like that, the cardiovascular training would step up a little bit. That's how the bodybuilding realm worked from where I was sat. And then you have S&C, or strength and conditioning, where, you're analyzing the movements that people want to get stronger in. So whether it's bench, squat, deadlift, or whatever. And then the prep work for those lifts happens in your program. So for example, you'll do knee dominant training or hip dominant training, and you'll split the body again into parts during a workout, and then you'll progressively overload to increase the strength and capacity of your muscles and the strength and capacity of your nervous system. From a traditional perspective, all three of those methods, whether it's personal training templates, bodybuilding templates, or strength and conditioning templates, they all orient on a very isolated training fashion. Okay, so now we are going to go into the functional patterns element and why it's so different to the traditional methods. If we look at functional patterns, remember the main thing that functional patterns focus on is how well you stand, how well you walk, how well you run, and how well you throw. And based on those mechanics themselves, that's how you can derive an assessment of yourself. So maybe you've got some video of you running or walking or standing, or maybe you've got a picture where you're standing. You can kind of see what tensions are aligned in the body at that point. Or maybe you can do a self-assessment where you're standing in the mirror and you're looking at yourself and you're going, hey, when I weight shift onto my right leg, all of a sudden my ribs shift over to my right. but when I weight shift left, they don't shift at all. So what's happening there, and what exercises and tools do I have at my disposal at the moment to move into the next phase, which is kind of dialing in onto the dysfunction itself. So think of it like this. Stage 1 of your workout should be assess yourself. Stage 2 should be dial in on your dysfunction. All right. So let's say, for example, your dysfunction is that you've got a rounded posture, a rounded spine. Your TVA lacks proper engagement because you're sat in a chair all day. Your psoas muscle does all the work for you. Your glutes don't really work very well. And you've also got an anterior pelvic tilt. That's a good example of someone in a modern age. How do you then think about what exercises that you could do, maybe from the 10-week course, maybe from the functional training system, that are going to help you to improve those positions? All right. So what's going to pull you out of thoracic flexion? What's going to pull you out of an anterior pelvic tilt? And what's going to get the glutes and the core and the thoracic spine to work together very well? Once you've nailed a couple of exercises down in terms of what you know, and you've got a couple of tools at your disposal that you can use, then you can go about training. Then you can go about putting the reps in. And within those reps themselves, let's focus on, like, let's say 1 to 3 exercises where you're putting in some reps, you're videoing what you're doing, you're assessing what you're doing, and then you come back, you rinse and repeat. Granted, this isn't everyone's cup of tea at this stage, because it really comes down to, what are you actually training for? Are you training to go through the motions and have a workout and sweat? Or are you training so that you can have an intention behind the training? Like, what is the intention behind the training? And that's where functional patterns comes in. The intention of my training is to be a better standing human being, a better walking human being, a better running human being, because that serves the longevity. Okay, my training plan is oriented around being a better human, not being better at a sport. And I think that's where the fitness industry gets it all very jumbled up and confused. You know, CrossFit is a sport. Powerlifting is a sport. If you think about bodybuilding, that's a sport. The basis of this should be then, well, once you dialed in on your dysfunctions, and maybe you've spent some time kind of researching what exercises you can do within the functional patterns catalog of exercises, as it were, you can then start to think, right, let's rep out 2 to 3 sets, 2 to 3 exercises, and work on studying my movement. How does it look in the mirror? How does it look on film? How does everything play out, so that at the end of the session, A, I feel like I've done something, B, I know that I've tried my best to work on my mechanics, even though I hate the word try, and C, I've actually been very intentional with this workout. Lastly, to kind of bring it back around to the assessment and sort of phase of functional patterns, like, what other concepts are going to help you that you've not thought about, or maybe that you don't even realize are there? There's patterns of movement everywhere. And if you look at people move, if you watch how sports people run or jump, or how they throw, you can start to put together concepts with a simple dumbbell or with maybe a medicine ball. You can start to unravel and unpack certain patterns of movement, and they are functional patterns. And functional patterns is all about making human beings more functional, right? More useful. And ultimately, I think that kind of covers how to do a functional patterns workout. It's being intentional, it's thinking, it's practicing, and it's applying concepts and reviewing those concepts as you go, rather than just bashing out a work. That's kind of my take on it. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say down in the comment section. If you are a functional patterns practitioner, or anyone watching this, then hopefully you can chime in with some good feedback on what you do and how you think of it, and how you create things for yourself and maybe for your clients that they can work on to help them become better humans. So yeah, that's me for today. Hope this has been a helpful video. Have a great day, stay strong, and keep moving.